Cubbies. It's time for Bear Hug 19 from your Appleseed book. Are you ready? Okay. Well, before we start our Bible lesson, I want you to think about some ways that maybe kids are not kind to each other. Can you think of ways that kids are not kind to each other? Well, sometimes a kid might take a toy from another child, right? Without even asking while the other child's using it. Is that kind? No, that is not kind. Have you ever done that? Try not to do that because that is not kind, okay? It is unkind if there's a line of children and one of the children run up and they try to get in the front, or they push their way between a couple kids up near the front instead of getting in the back of the line. Isn't it? That's unkind. Yeah, that's another way we can be unkind. Have you ever done that? Okay, let's not do that, okay? Let's be kind to each other. It's hard to be kind all the time, Cubbies, but why should we be kind? If we want to have friends, we want to be kind, right? Yes. And God loves us, so we should show others God's love, shouldn't we? Yes. But you know what? The best reason to be kind is because God tells us to be kind in the Bible, in His Word. So God is the King of everyone, both grown-ups and children. Oh, in our Bible, your memory verse, let's see. Your memory verse is Psalm, right near the middle. Let's see. Here it comes, 47. I almost have it. Do you remember it? I hope you remember it. 47, verse 7. For God is the King of all the earth. For God is the King of all the earth. See that crown? That's to remind us that God is the King of all the earth. Psalm 47, verse 7. And God is in charge. We're not in charge. God is in charge. Okay. Well, do you remember before I go on to that, I need to tell you this. Since God is the King of all the earth, we should obey everything God tells us, right? Well, sometimes we don't obey God as King. Do you remember when God's people, the Israelites, were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt? Here, let me remind you. They were slaves. Oh my goodness. God showed His mighty power and brought them out of Egypt and through the Red Sea. Do you remember when God used His mighty power and had the sea split in half and the dry land in the middle so they could walk through it? Wow. But after that, after the Israelites left Egypt, they had a hard time obeying God as King. Let's hear what happened. Now this comes from the book of Exodus, which is the second book in the Bible. Genesis, Exodus. There you go. Genesis, Exodus. That's how I remember it. I have a little song. Genesis, Exodus. Okay, chapter 20 and Deuteronomy. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Oh, there's Deuteronomy. Chapter 31. Chapter 31. So that's where our Bible lesson comes from today, okay? So maybe your grown-up can check it out, okay? Well, the Israelites, after they went through the sea, they were walking through the sandy desert. Oh, marching, marching, walking, walking, walking. God was taking them somewhere. Do you know where? Do you remember? God was taking them to the land of Canaan. Oh, yes. Isn't it beautiful? It was a wonderful place to grow fruit trees and to take their sheep and their cows and take good care of them. God had promised to give them this land as their home. And remember, God always keeps His promises. Well, on the way to Canaan, God told them to camp near a tall mountain. Do you see that mountain I drew? I drew a tall mountain. Okay, so let's see what I'm supposed to do here. So, and the people of Israel, we'll just put a bunch of circles to show. This is a bunch of people, okay? A bunch of Israelites. They're camping here at the bottom of the mountain, okay? God wanted to tell his people his very own special words. God came down on the mountain in a cloud. We'll put a cloud here. Ooh, okay. Oh, and then there was fire coming out of the cloud. Because God is mighty. And his power was showing there. So the people were at the foot of the mountain, and God told Moses, Moses to come up and meet him on the mountain. So we'll put Moses here, okay? He's not this big, but I want you to be able to see him. We'll give him a little smile. So there he goes, up to the mountain to meet God. All right. God talked to Moses, and God wrote his special words on 2 stone tablets. Here, I'll put one in this hand and one in this hand. And God wrote his words on there, okay? Then Moses brought the tablets down to the people. We'll make an arrow down to the people. Cubbies, do you have any idea what God wrote on the tablets? Well, God was the king of the Israelites. He loved his people, and he wanted them to love and obey him. On the tablets, he wrote 10 ways they could love him and love each other. Let me write the number 10. 10. And let's count to 10. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Well, commandments 1, 2, 3, and 4 tell us ways to love God. And commandments 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 tell us how to love each other. If the Israelites obeyed God's commands, God promised to protect them from any enemies who tried to fight with them. But I have some sad news. Most of the people did not want to obey God as king. And when they saw the tall enemies who lived in the land of Canaan, they were scared. They didn't really believe God would protect them from their enemies. So God said the Israelites couldn't go home to Canaan yet. Oh no, they would have to keep hiking in the desert for a long, long time, for 40 years. Oh, finally God said it was time to go home to Canaan again. The people were excited. Hip, hip, hooray. God reminded the Israelites of his 10 commandments. The Israelites promised that this time they would obey God. Cubbies, what do you think? Would the Israelites obey God's commands in the new land? Well, you'll find out in the next lesson, okay? Do you and I always obey God? No. Sometimes we don't want to listen to what God says in the Bible. We don't want to be kind and love others. We all sin and forget that God is in charge. Look at these sisters fighting, and look at the little girl disobeying her mom. Are they being kind? Are they showing love? Are they following God's commandments? No, they are not. We all sin and forget that God is in charge. Well, let me put this back up here to remind us. God is in charge. God is in charge. Okay?